If there's one thing that Battle Royale games have typically never really done, it's balance weapons well, except for Apex Legends, which I feel has a very good majority of their weapons fairly balanced, except here and there. And looking back, I've kind of reflected and figured out that each season has one like regular weapon that's really overpowered. Now, I'm going to be talking about the Havoc in this video because, as just about everybody who's ever touched the game in Season 5 knows, this weapon is a big problem. However, there's been some recent tweets from developers and content creators to hint at the fact that it's actually not going to be changed this season at all, and maybe not in the future. However, we'll talk about that because there's some very specific wording that we're going to need to dive into to try to figure that out. But I kind of just wanted to take a trip down memory lane because for anybody who's stuck with the game for quite a while, you'll know that each season has kind of had this catastrophe of a weapon. Season 4 wasn't that bad, at least from what I remember, but Season 1, I'm sure all of you remember the original Skull Piercer attachment for the Wingman, which was absolutely killer. You could get immediately downed with the Wingman way back then in Season 1. Season 2, we had a horrible Peacekeeper problem, and that even like persisted a little bit into Season 3, but Season 3 was ruled by the Charge Rifle, and none of the other seasons have come even close to being as bad as the start to Season 3. I remember my friends and I taking a week-long break in Season 3 because of how miserable it was, landing anywhere on World's Edge, and people were getting charge rifles and you would just get lasered immediately from like 300 meters. You wouldn't even see these people. They'd get like a 6 times and kill your whole squad, which I mean, I would 100% do that again if I could get to replay Season 3. That was by far the best season we've ever had in Apex. Holy moly, Season 4 was pathetic compared to Season 3, but we won't talk about that. We're positive on this channel. We're hoping that Season 5 is going to be just as good as Season 3. Fingers crossed that we ever get this limited time mode. It seems like it's been pushed back again, but that's for another video because we got to get into this Havoc stuff. A couple days ago, Zeus posted on Twitter and he said, "This is the exact percentage of a clip you need to hit with no attachments to kill a 200 health point enemy. Do you see the problem? R99, 95% of your shots. Wingman, 100% of your shots. 301, 83% of your shots. Prowler, 75% of your shots. And Havoc, 37% of your shots." Now, I talked about this in a previous video where I looked at the stats of the Havoc and just objectively made the statement that the Havoc is an overpowered weapon in comparison to the other weapons in the same class as it. However, Jason McCord, King of Kings, responds on that and says, "Don't forget mag size, rate of fire, or DPS. This is such a weird way to try to prove your point." Now, don't get me wrong, I love Jason, but if you look at the mag size, rate of fire, or damage per second, the Havoc blows all of those guns out of the water. In fact, it blows just about every single gun out of the water, maybe other than the Devotion. He then said underneath that, "To be clear, I'm not defending the Havoc or any other weapon. I'm just stating how all weapons in Apex are not supposed to be equally balanced against each other in all scenarios." So this is a really interesting statement because not only does it lead us to a pretty solid conclusion that they don't think the Havoc is a problem over there. It's probably not something that they've really even looked at, maybe a little bit, but I don't think they're planning on changing it at all, and I stand by that 100%. But it also gives us a little bit of insight into how they actually balance things. So I'm assuming that when they balance weapons, they're only balancing them like in their like little class, so they're probably only comparing the Havoc to the 301 and the Flatline, maybe the Hemlock, but that's interesting to me because I originally had thought that when they were balancing, they just kind of had close range weapons, so they would balance the shotguns. So then they would balance like mid range, and they would have all the SMGs, LMGs, and assault rifles, and then they would have snipers. But I guess that's not the case, because when he says scenarios, to me that says they're more trying to have a balance with like range, which is pretty cool. And then this other person, I don't know who they are, I think it's just someone asking a question, Kyle Drilling, says, "How do you decide what weapons are more powerful by design? This is really interesting." And Jason says, "We decide every season what flavor we want the season to feel like and push power around so each season feels a little bit different. We want you to loot your first weapon, but then have goals to find and upgrade the more powerful weapons." Now, this kind of makes sense to me, but at the same time it doesn't really, because the whole allure of a battle royale game is that you can land on anything, right? And like anything can be anywhere, but that doesn't mean that if I land on one weapon and someone else lands on the Havoc, they should win 100% of the time. And I'm not joking when I say, at least at like the level of lobbies that I'm put in, if someone else lands on a Havoc and you don't, you die 100% of the time. This isn't like oh, maybe they'll miss their shots. Like, no, they could hip fire from across Mirage Voyage and kill you. Because as we discussed in that previous Havoc video, they kind of broke the recoil on it, and now you can just laser people and kill them no matter how much effort you put in. TSM Aberlally weighed in as well. I feel like Jason probably ignored him because he's mean to all the devs all the time, but basically his point in his 2 tweets that he sent were just that a lot of the other weapons, you have to land and find attachments, and like you spend the whole game like getting muzzles and extended mags and stocks so that the weapon can be like at its top tier form. Whereas when you pick up the Havoc, it's just immediately amazing, and you don't have to add like an extended mag, you don't have to add any barrel stabilizers or anything, and the recoil's amazing. It has like 1,000,000 bullets in a magazine. So I definitely do see his point. The wording was definitely a little aggressive, and I think which kind of turned me off a little bit, but really good point from him, one that I personally didn't even think of. And he also just wanted the devs to know that he thinks the weapon is a 0 skill weapon, which I actually agree with, and that people have been complaining about it for multiple seasons, and that something needs to be done about it, which I also agree with. But for the time being, it doesn't seem like we're gonna get anything out of this. So I guess push those hopes down that one day the Havoc won't be the king of all weapons, and maybe like something else will get a chance to shine. Maybe like the Hemlock at some point. Maybe they'll hit it up with a hop up, or they'll increase the fire rate or something for a single fire. But who knows? The other thing that I would like to see is I really wish that they would buff the Sentinel in some way. Also, I really wish that they would fix that. Like, let me know if you guys get this or not, but if you're crouching and you looked at like you ADS through a scope with the Sentinel, like part of your hitbox like glitches into the scope and you can't see. That's a problem that I've been having lately, and I don't think anyone's really mentioned it. So let me know if you've had that problem as well. It might be just a PC thing. However, that's really it. Just to kind of summarize, Zeus said that the Havoc is super overpowered and he wished that they would nerf it. And then Jason McCord, who's a developer at Apex, said that not all weapons are supposed to be balanced the same. Some weapons are more powerful by design. And then went on to say that each season kind of needs its own flavor. However, I'm getting a little sick of the energy weapon flavor. I feel like all these flavors are getting a little burnt. Maybe the 301 flavor would be a little bit better. I'm just saying. But that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you smack that like button on the way out, as well as hit that red subscribe button if you enjoyed this kind of content. Dislike it if you dislike it. But that's going to be it for me for today's video. So until tomorrow, guys, take it easy.